Today, we are diving into the incredible science of epigenetics, a field that is completely flipping our understanding of DNA on its head. You've heard the phrase a million times, right? It's in your DNA. But what if that's only half the story? What if every single meal you eat, every ounce of stress you feel, and the very air you breathe is actively rewriting your biological story, right down to the genetic level? Well, get ready because your whole understanding of who you are is about to change.
For decades, the central dogma in biology was pretty simple. Our DNA is a fixed blueprint. It's locked in the day we're born. It decides our eye color, our height, our risk for disease. This idea of gene as fate was just how it worked. But it turns out that's not the whole picture, not even close.
And this is where it gets really cool. Enter the world of epigenetics. Now, that prefix epi, it just means on top of. So this is the study of a whole other layer of information that sits right on top of our DNA. You can think of them like chemical tags or little sticky notes that tell your genes when to power on and when to shut down. The amazing part? They do all this without ever changing your actual DNA sequence. They just control how it's read.
Okay, here's the super simple way to think about it. If your DNA is the computer's hardware, the physical machine you're born with, then your epigenome is the software. It's the program that tells the hardware what to run and when. And here's the kicker. Unlike the hardware, which is fixed, this software is constantly being updated by your life.
So how does this software actually work? Well, it mainly uses two key tools. The first is something called DNA methylation. This is where these tiny chemical tags literally latch onto a gene and act like a dimmer switch, turning its expression way down. The second is histone modification. Your DNA is spooled around these proteins called histones, kind of like thread on a spool. By tightening or loosening those spools, the cell can control which genes are easy to read and which ones are hidden away. Now, if you want to see just how powerful this is, take a look at these two mice. Believe it or not, they are genetically identical twins. And yet, one is lean, brown, and perfectly healthy, while the other is yellow, obese, and prone to all sorts of disease. The only difference between them? What their mother ate during pregnancy. The healthy mouse's mom got supplements that added epigenetic tags, and that was enough to completely silence a harmful gene. This is a quote from Randy Girdle, one of the brilliant researchers on that mouse study. And I think he just nails the feeling, doesn't he? It's eerie and a little scary to think that something as simple as a change in diet can have such a massive impact on the next generation's genes. And it's not just about diet, and it's not just in mice. Check this out. These are water fleas. When they sense that predators are nearby, their epigenome kicks into gear, and they literally grow defensive spines in a helmet for protection. But what's really wild is that this change can be passed down for several generations, even if the predators are long gone. The environment literally rewrote their biology. So here's the crucial takeaway for you. These aren't just quirky examples from a science lab. The architects of your biology are the choices you make every single day. The food you eat, how often you move your body, your stress levels, how well you sleep, the things you're exposed to in your environment, all of these are sending constant messages to your epigenome, rewriting that biological software in real time. This, of course, leads to a really fascinating question. If our habits are constantly writing our epigenetic code, can we get more intentional about it? Could we actually use lifestyle changes to turn back our biological clock? Well, according to a recent clinical trial, the answer seems to be yes. A pretty big yes, actually. In just an 8-week program, a group of men between 50 and 72 were able to reduce their epigenetic age, their biological age, by an average of 3.23 years compared to a control group. That's a huge reversal in just 2 months. So, how'd they do it? You know, the toolkit they used was surprisingly simple. It was a very specific, plant-rich diet, moderate exercise, think 30 minutes 5 days a week, daily stress reduction, like simple breathing exercises, and a big focus on getting at least 7 hours of sleep. These aren't some futuristic biohacks. They are targeted, powerful lifestyle choices that you can make. But the story gets even deeper, even stranger. These epigenetic changes don't just happen inside your own lifetime. It turns out that the experiences of your parents, your grandparents, even your great-grandparents might have left echoes that are still present on your epigenome today. One of the most powerful and tragic human examples of this is the Dutch hunger winter back in 1944.
Pregnant women who suffered through this awful famine had children who, 60 years later, still showed altered epigenetic marks on specific genes. But here's the stunner, the effects didn't stop there. They were also seen in the next generation, the grandchildren of the famine survivors. A single event sent ripples across at least 2 generations.
And you can imagine, a discovery this big opens up some really complicated questions for all of us. If things like pollution and chronic stress can leave a physical mark, what does that mean for environmental justice? And as we get better at reading this code, who should get to see your epigenetic data? And maybe the biggest question of all, now that we know our choices can echo down the line, what do we owe to future generations?
I think Randy Girdle, the researcher from that mouse study, really said it best. He said that epigenetics introduces the concept of free will into our idea of genetics. We're moving away from this old idea of being locked into our genetic fate and into a new era where we have a say in the matter, a kind of biological free will. So, the takeaway from all of this is pretty profound. You are an active participant in your own health. Your genes are not your destiny, they are your potential. Your biological story is being edited every single day. The only question left is, what are you going to write in the next chapter?